you don't have to just play Snake Eye and Fiendsmith if you want to win. Now you can play Fiendsmith plus something else, right? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Cardmarket. It's a new year, but it's the same old game. Today we're talking about hopes for Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2025. I'm here with Leonie and Johnny, as always. How are you guys doing?
Amazing. Looking forward to a 2025 with amazing Yu-Gi-Oh!
Same. Aren't we all? After the ups and downs of 2024 in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Lots of downs.
There was potentially a lot more downs than people were hoping to see. The year of fire has finally come to an end. How are we feeling about that?
You know, things do get better, and it's good to know. That's good to know. Just some things that I don't want to see as often anymore, and I feel like that has been taken care of.
We really were in the trenches for a while, weren't we? You know,
whenever a deck becomes good in Master Duel, then you kind of know that, you know, oh, nice, it's kind of over in the TCG. So.
Yeah, that's right. I do think that was sort of the problem a lot of people had. It wasn't just that Snake Eye was strong, it was just in the specific way that it was strong. Felt so unfair and so oppressive, and like you couldn't even do anything about it. And now we're looking forward to these new sort of decks that are breaking onto the scene, like Malice, like Ryzeal, that yes are also strong, but they're doing it in sort of a much more fun way to a lot of people's taste and opinion.
Definitely.
The other thing in 2024 we need to talk about is product releases. So we had a lot of anniversary collections, quarter century products. We had our reprint tins, and of course we had the Mulch Army releases are kind of my quick highlights for the year. What are we thinking about that?
Well, first of all, they're very cute.
They are very cute.
they
get bonus
look
points
fantastic.
for
The
Yeah.
quarter century products?
No, just the Mulch Armies.
Yes.
They're adorable.
I like them. I mean, everybody was screaming and being scared about Fuvalos when it was announced. It's a very good card. It's played a lot. It's not played in all deck lists. It's not played in all main decks as we feared it would be. My favorite thing about it is it basically just nuked YuGiOh so that I don't have to play against an unbreakable board anymore. Mm-hmm. And I actually have a back and forth kind of gameplay.
It did really strike that line of like the balanced Max C, where it's a good tool to have in the toolbox for specific matchups like YuGiOh, but it's not actually as generally applicable as we kind of all thought it would be when we first read the card. So I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised with the balance they struck with Fuvalos.
The only thing they kind of got done is to get Maxi limited to 2 in the OCG. So
yeah, which is like
that's about as far as.
And then the next list, they didn't do anything.
It's the third Max C that gets you, really. You know, if you really think about it, it's the third one that really gets you.
It's never the first one for sure.
No, definitely not. And in terms of products, I do think the biggest stinker of the year was the tins. At the end of the day, we got good staple cards in nice rarities. People can bling stuff out and get cards they haven't been able to get for a long time. So.
Yeah. Or play everything in super rare for super cheap. Like get an SP for like $6 or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
That's the good part of that. Just the way that they had you buy tins and product from the tins and then immediately ruined the value of that 2 months later.
And we are sort of coming into that situation a little bit now with Quarter Century Stampede, which comes out in April, because Fuvalos is getting reprinted already. It's only been like 5 or 6 months and it's already getting a reprint. So now, you know, there's people who bought them who are kind of upset it's getting reprinted so early, and there's people who didn't buy them who are really excited it's getting reprinted so early. Do we think that's maybe something Konami's interested in, is reprinting these sort of staple cards sooner after than we've seen in the past?
I think Konami has realized a little bit at least that right now, if you want to play like competitively, most decks want to play a Fiendsmith engine at this point. And then you just have the Mulch Armies and Fiendsmith, and that's already $800. And you have like 6 slots in your main deck, or 7, and 6 slots in your side, and the rest of the deck is still not paid for.
Yeah.
I think at some point they realized that it's too much to have everyone invest this much into playing, and they want to keep it a bit fresh.
That's a bit of a conversation that's being had right now too, is sort of the death of the mid-level Yu-Gi-Oh player, where it's like, if you're invested in the game, you're invested. and you're spending €1,000 to get all the best cards, or you're playing GOAT format casually, or Edison, or just like hanging out with your friends and just playing and having a good time. That's sort of like, you know, person who goes to locals every week and like just kind of has their pet deck that they've been playing for 6 years or whatever, and like just hoping for new support to come out.
What kind of person are you describing?
Yeah. Those kinds of players are becoming fewer and further in between, and especially going into 2025, I'm wondering if this is something that with these reprints they're trying to remedy, because the card gaming landscape is also booming. Like there's so many games to play now. You can play One Piece, you can play like all these Bandai games. They're doing a League of Legends card game. Like,
oh boy.
Yeah, it's card games have never been more popular than they are right now. And I think any reason for Yu-Gi-Oh to look unappealing to these sort of like middle of the road, yes, they play, but they're not like super heavily invested into buying like a $1,200 deck. Like if I can go play One Piece for like $200 and like compete at a high level, like, yeah, maybe I will, right? So I'm wondering if that's something that's on their radar for the new year or not.
I think they will help those like locals only players that have a nice understanding of the game. They know what a chain is and they know how to play properly, but they don't want to go across countries to go to a YCS to then like spend hundreds of bucks.
Yeah, and it's also always good when they reprint like staples and stuff. It's always kind of like the set amount of cards that you kind of have to have if you want to play competitively successfully. Like,
yeah. And
then that just especially for, let's say, newer players or returning players or anything like that. It can be very helpful and can make your options a bit cheaper.
I mean, no matter what, you're gonna need staple cards to play even at a local level. There's just always going to be Yu-Gi-Oh cards that go in every deck because they're just generally very good in no matter what you're playing. That being said though, we are in this meta now where it does feel like there is more freedom in what you can play. You don't have to just play Snake Eye and Fiendsmith if you want to win. Now you can play Fiendsmith plus something else, right? So yeah, now we have Malice, we have Ryzeal, and these are decks that are actually kind of just like fun.
Crossover Breakers, I actually bought a full core of Ryzeal and Malice because both of them looked interesting to me. I've played both at locals, both are fun. And I really feel that this meta right now reminds me a lot of Secret Slayers meta after TOS, when we got Eldritch and the Adamanticators, which also was a set where we had like 3 decks, and I don't even know what the last deck in that set was. It was Eldritch and Adamanticators, the rest is irrelevant.
Yeah, whatever it was not as good as those two. So.
Adamanticator was much more like unhealthy for the game.
Yes.
I think if we look at it from that point, Crossover Breakers was a great success. You can play a full Ryzeal core with 25 non-engine, which you all got from the rarity collections, which are now dirt cheap, and you have a deck which you could actually perform at a YCS level.
As opposed to spending so much on bonfires and Fiendsmiths and
Bonfire, you know. Dude.
But I mean, I think Fiendsmith is also worth talking about a little bit because that was also, you know, what everyone assumed was going to break the game wide open and ruin Yu-Gi-Oh forever, which, I mean, yes, it is strong, it is a good engine, but I do feel it's more about the play style of these cards and archetypes and engines than it is about the actual power level of them, right? I don't mind Fiendsmith Ryzeal because it feels more fun to play against it than it does Fiendsmith Snake Eye.
The issue wasn't the Fiendsmith portion, it was the Snake Eye portion.
That is basically it.
And I feel like there's a difference between like card type or a deck being strong and being oppressive, right? Like it's okay if your type is just good or if your end board is just great. Like that's what it's supposed to be. It feels less oppressive.
Oppressive is a good word, and it's hard to define like what is unfun. What is an unfun deck to play against? Because it is slightly different for everyone, but I think we can all agree Snake Eye was an unfun deck. No one liked playing against it.
Tenpai, what?
Yeah. Also a bit kudos to Konami. One of the reasons why Fiendsmith feels so good is because of a few bans that we got recently. If we still had Appaloosa,
Yeah.
Fiendsmith would feel so much worse because every Fiendsmith combo would be like, oh, okay, 4 bodies, Appaloosa. Okay, and now I do my other board, but you have to play it through Appaloosa first. And I think that's what people like. It leads to more interactive games because you can play more engine and try to break a board instead of having to try to make sure that there's no board in the first place.
I guess we should talk about what we know is coming in 2025, and then we can sort of get to what we hope is coming in 2025.
sure.
But we have the Blue Eyes deck coming out next month. We have the last quarter century product. For real this time, guys. For real.
Yeah, we will get the Stampede, and I think Alliance Inside is the last one where we'll get the quarter centuries. Alliance Inside looks already to be a great set, but I do feel that if we are losing the quarter centuries, we don't have the Starlights anymore, we don't have Ghosts, we don't have Ultis, we have no chase rarity in our sets. If current sets that we had right now were to come out as they are, with the secret rares as they have them, without quarter centuries, I don't think they would do well, because then there's no reason to like open a box and like hope to pull that chase card, because then it's always like the 99% times better to just open like to buy singles.
Yeah, do we think they're going to go back to one of our previous rarities like you're talking about, like Ghosts or something? Or do we think there might be
Mega Sparkle Rare?
Brand new super
Sparkle Rare.
duper moon rare
Rainbow,
shooting
diamond
star?
rare.
Yeah. Like I could see them maybe doing a new rarity type.
I would honestly love if we could go back to like ultimate rare and ghost rares in sets, like having like supers, ultras, and secrets potentially be an ultimate, like
Yep.
all of them, and then having like that one chase ghost per set.
Mm-hmm.
I would love that. I'm not sure if we get that.
Yeah, I personally am not a fan of ghost rares at all. It's a personal taste thing.
That's
I
A
just-
fight.
I do not like the way they look at all. I'm like, you can't even see the card. You know what I mean? It's like, it looks like a blank card half the time.
Well,
But
that's why it's a ghost. You
yeah,
can't see
I
it.
know. But I'm paying that much for a card. I want to be able to see the picture on it. You know. How about any sort of pie in the sky type predictions of like things that probably won't happen, but if you were Mr. Konami sitting at the desk, things you would do in the new year of YuGiOh to make the game amazing and perfect.
Implement OCG rarities in sets.
That's what I was gonna say.
Into our main sets. Basically, I mean, they have done that with the rarity collections. We have the card at super expensive and super cheap and everything in between.
At the very least, they have shown their capability to do the multiple rarities.
Yes.
And it's very hard for me to see them going back on that and just like never doing it again, right? And I think everyone would freak out if they tried to do that, honestly. Maybe they don't even do it in the main sets. Maybe they do release another Frugalos and it's only secret rare and it's the same old thing we've been dealing with for years and years and years.
I mean, we have Meowls coming, and that's just that.
Yeah,
It's a secret rare.
Exactly. But we're getting this quarter century Stampede in April. Are we going to get tins this year? Maybe not. Maybe we get some other alternative anniversary reprint product in the fall, and we have Stampede in the spring. And from here on out, we just get 2 reprint sets every year of staple cards every 6 months. Like that would already be an improvement. And then on top of that, if they do multiple rarities of cards in those reprint sets, even if they're not doing multiple rarities in the main sets, I still think that would be enough to give people the entry point to these staples that they need without having to pay like super crazy prices for them.
If we know that we have more reprint sets, and Fiendsmith engine right now is very expensive, but in 4 months I can get Fiendsmith from Stampede,
Yeah.
and it will be cheap, then those cards will never start at 90. They will start at 60 or at 50 because people like don't have that much security in it.
It is the uncertainty that causes these prices to go
Yes.
crazy high, right? I think more reprint sets, more rarities of staple cards, and just let people get the game pieces that they need to play the game. That's the main thing. All right, last point, final point. Do we think 2025 will be a new summoning mechanic or a new master rule? Because it has been a number of years at this point since links have hit the scene, since master rule got changed. It got changed and then got changed again. But it could potentially be time for a shakeup of that level. What do we think?
The game is very complicated as it is. And we have that issue with like new player experience being horrible because they have to go through decades of learning interactions between new summoning mechanics and stuff like that. And so I think right now with the way that links are implemented now with this master rule and with the way that you can play your decks the way that you want, I think they have a good setup. And if they now added another summoning mechanic, I would feel a bit worried. What I could see is some form of like deck master kind of thing that they could maybe implement that has to do with extra deck slots, maybe changing the amount of extra deck that you can have, rather lowering than increasing to like cut down on that accessible toolbox that you have. Aside of that, I don't see a master rule change coming right now.
I kind of agree. I think the game is complicated enough, and we're stretching the design space as much as we can already. So I think it's fine. People have a hard enough time learning Yu-Gi-Oh.
I feel like they could use the time instead of, coming up with these new things. They could spend that time to invest in that 4-player situation that Yu-Gi-Oh has going on, like the commander from Magic type style. I think this would be quite the shake-up. I feel like there's a lot of potential there, and if they're smart, they'll use it, in my opinion. Like, why not, right?
I think alternate formats is a better approach compared to changing something that's currently working quite well.
If they're going to keep giving legacy support for decks like Six Samurai, for people who've been playing Six Samurai for the past 15 years and will never stop, the least they could do is give them a place to actually play it. If you want to see us take on an alternate format, domain format, we did a video with Joshua Schmidt. You can check that out from last week. And otherwise, stay tuned to the channel. We got big plans here for 2025, even if Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't. So we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
We can predict ban lists, and then when they come out, we can be like, oh, did we predict
Go back
right?
to this video and say, oh, I knew it.
And just a clip of like, oh, Ariziel's never gonna get banned.